Oh, we could fly.
Welcome to this new season of the Have a Cup of Johanny podcast. So, I want to title this new season that I'm embarking on with I'm Growing. So, this is going to be the season of growth. And that's what I'm going to share with you throughout the season. So, I thank you for coming over here and sitting with me. And I hope you enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Have a Cup of Johanny podcast. I am your host, Johanny Ortega, and we are talking all about Under the Flamboyant Tree for the month of September. That's my upcoming novel, by the way. And today we are going through the crux of it all, the genesis, the nucleus. There you go. Bianca's journey. Are you ready? Of course you are. Of course. Because why else would you be listening to me right now? Let's go. If you heard the last episode, you kind of know that Bianca is a complex character. You kind of know where I got that name from. If you don't and you want to listen to that first, go ahead and come back to this one. You don't have to listen to these episodes in sequence. I just think it gives you an insight a little bit better into the book and the main character. But nevertheless, Bianca, she is strong. But that is nothing new to my main characters. If you go through the books, short stories, and novellas that I've written, my main characters are strong and resilient, yet vulnerable, and some of them just make mistakes after mistakes. But their resiliency keeps them going. And all of them are Dominican. So there you go. That's the commonality in all my main characters. So check those out. But for Bianca, she is lost. So this is something new that is very much a part of this character because this is a story that stems from someone being lost and finding themselves. And she is very lost. And you will see that when you start reading the book. And then I know for me, like, I kind of like hated her at the beginning because I'm like, what? She's so horrible. Like, what kind of mom is this? But then as I was creating this character and as I was writing, because I'm a discovery writer, so I wrote this story several times. I drafted this story several times before I finally got the draft that I wanted. But in each draft, like, Bianca was a tough character to love at first. But then I started thinking, and if you have heard me talk about having empathy and communications, right? That was my theme for the month prior to this one, for the month of August. I had to do something similar with this character. I had to kind of like ask myself, where is she coming from? That she's having these reactions. And I remember when I was talking to my therapist about some of the things that happened to me, and she was like, "Well, I think the adults around you in a way were trying to keep you safe. They probably didn't go about it the right way, but they were trying to keep you safe." And and it clicked on me to hear that from someone else. And I remember like being on the third draft and having that introspection, that talk with myself as I'm looking at this scene where Bianca is just being terrible. And I'm like, why is she like this? And I asked myself that, why is she like this? And the answer that comes is like, she's just going off of what she knows. Like, she thinks this is the best thing for her daughter, and she's making decisions with the knowledge that she has at the time, the resources that she has at the time. So it's very easy for an outsider, me as the writer, to look at it and be like, that's so dumb. But then when I look at all the decisions I have made with little knowledge, little experience, and little resources, they look kind of like Bianca's. So even approaching my character, I had to have some empathy for her because at the beginning she's not the most likable, and you may ask yourself what is redeemable about this person in the first two chapters, and I would just say just stick around. You will find out. And she's struggling right from the beginning. She is struggling with who she is. Who will she be? What will she do now? And if you're a mom and you know that your identity just revolves around that, imagining the loss of your child, that's a big loss, not just of that person that you love dearly, but of a piece of yourself that will go with that person, because that was part of your identity. So this is kind of like her, not her turning point, but this is what pushes her to go to San Francisco de Macorís in La República Dominicana, because she needs to start from the beginning, per se. Because when one loses something so big, right? When one loses kind of like half of oneself, it's almost like that subtraction. It's like an error in the calculation, and you're like, I gotta backtrack this. I gotta bring it back to the basic equation, to where I started. And it's kind of like that with Bianca. Um, when that happens, she understands that something went terribly wrong. And she kind of knows, but she doesn't want to face it. So she does what one would normally do. We go back to where it all started. And this journey forces her to confront those truths about herself, about her family, and the life she thought she knew. And through her story, I learned that sometimes the only way to heal is by facing those things that I'm avoiding. And this is coming from a recovering procrastinator. Because, and you heard me on the last episode talk about how I had an inkling that I had suffered something in the past, but because I have these gaps in my memory, I really didn't know. And I read this short story, and some things kind of like tugged at me. Some things just came back. And I was like, something is there, but I'm going to shut it off for now. But I made it a point to go back to that. For Bianca, the whole going back, it's almost like a spur of the moment. But then when she's finally back, she second guesses herself. She's like, what did I do? Could I have just maintained the status quo? And that would have been easier on me, you see? And and sometimes I know we have those moments where it's like we make a potential choice that is going to be painful, is going to be hard, but it's a choice that we make knowing that it may free us from something, from the demons that we've been holding on to. But then it's always that bit of a second doubt voice that comes in, because we want comfort. As human beings, we want comfort. And unearthing truths that we have pretended as if they were not there is not comfortable. It's not going to feel right. It's not going to feel comfortable at all. And sometimes that's how it goes. But you know what? I'm not going to wait till the end. I'm going to ask you if you have had these moments. I would love to hear from you because this has happened to me. This happened to me when I was like in the midst of like, should I see a therapist or should I not? Because I knew something was there. But then I was like, do I really want to know? You see, I'm doing just fine right now, quote unquote, just fine. I'm, I'm laughing now because it's like, yeah, I was not doing fine. How can I put this? That's Bianca's story. And the thing with me is that I write these characters and it's like I'm healing myself through them because I'm putting myself in their shoes and and I'm putting myself in things that I either have done or I'm fixing to do to better myself, to heal. And this helps me to not just to uncover certain things about myself, but to find a bit of courage, that courage that it will take for me to make those steps. And sometimes by seeing a character such as Bianca, a very flawed character, such as Bianca doing all these things, it makes me feel as if I'm also capable of doing it. And in a way, like that's why I love to write these fictional yet realistic stories because in a way if I'm finding courage through it, I am hoping that the reader that reads this will find courage themselves. And I say this because Bianca's struggle is a universal one. I don't think that's just a me problem. It's not a Bianca problem. Think about how many times have you felt lost or disconnected from your roots? How often have you been afraid to dig deeper into your own stories? Because that's Bianca's journey. It's a reminder to me as I'm writing it and to you when you read it that it is okay to feel lost and that seeking answers is not a sign of weakness, but it's a sign of strength. And I'm going to ask you again, I want to hear from you. Have you had to confront those difficult truths about your past? Did it change you? How did it change you? If you feel comfortable enough, I would love to hear from you. Share your stories with me, either on social media, in the comments, or send me a message. And let's create a space where we can support each other through these tough journeys. Thank you so much for listening today. Next week, we're going to go into the rich cultural backdrop of the Dominican Republic and how it plays a crucial role in Bianca's story. And I can't wait to share more with you about this book. Until then, embrace your story, one page at a time. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.
Thank you so much for listening. I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment, do a rating if you can on the podcast, share it with somebody you love, but most importantly, come back. See you next time. Bye.